higher self-esteem if we feel we are consistently performing up to the standards that we believe is appropriate. And we'll find out what we mean by that a little more, because that does not mean high self-esteem equals very good person. It still could mean very bad person, because they have the wrong idea of what constitutes goodness. The difference between the real and ideal self: have you realized your potential? Do you value the trait but have little potential? The ideal self includes the ought and the wish selves. So we've all heard this thing. I heard this constantly as a young person when I was in elementary school and all the way through high school. That was written on my report card every semester without fail: Peter is not living up to his potential. And it never bothered me very much. It would bother me a little bit more now that I'm an adult, if my boss wrote on my performance report, "You are not living up to your potential," which tells me that I could do so much more, but I choose not to. Now, you may be choosing not to because of family commitments. There may be reasons why you cannot be an ideal employee. In my case, I don't have any reason why I shouldn't be. So it would affect me adversely if someone told me I wasn't living up to my potential professionally. So do you value what's being evaluated? Is it important to you? If family is more important to you than your job, which is a choice that young parents are often forced into, especially a young woman or a female professional who is working for a living but who has children and is still the primary caregiver in her family unit, whether she is a single parent or not. If she's married, usually the women still get stuck with more of the housework and the child rearing duties. So she may not be able to be an optimum employee because she values her family life more than her professional life. She knows she does what's required of her at work. She doesn't go, to use an American expression, the extra mile at work because she just doesn't have time. She's worried about raising little Mustafa and little Muhammad to be good people, to be good Muslims in this case, I assume. I almost said good Christians, which is what I would say back home, but they probably wouldn't be named Mustafa and Muhammad if they were good Christians. But that's fine. If an employee is more concerned with that, then she doesn't care, in this case, about a work evaluation that says she could be doing better, because she knows she's doing an excellent job at being a mother, at being a parent. So in this case, she does not value so much the trait. And the ideal self includes the ought and the wish selves. This is what I know, this is what I want to be, and this is what I know I could be based on external indicators such as, what my religion tells me to be. This goes back to the example of never telling a lie, things like this. The evaluative part of self-concept also measures our sense of meaning in life. This includes purpose, okay? If you are just working at a job to receive a salary, you don't particularly like what you do, or even if you like what you do, you don't see it as being very important to society. You may enjoy being an accountant for the National Gas Company. It doesn't matter. For Tachi, you're an accountant for Tachi. But it really doesn't affect society around you very much. You don't feel that you are a great force for social goodness or for social change because of the job you have. This may mean to you that your professional life doesn't have a lot of meaning. And self-evaluation also comes from self-respect. Whether you look up to yourself, and that's an important thing. Do you admire the person that you see in the mirror every morning? Do you look at that person and think, I'm doing a good job, I'm doing the best I can? Sometimes, this happens to me when I start a new job, I know I'm not doing the best job I could, but I also know part of that is because I'm new at the job. It doesn't matter that I'm an experienced teacher. You still have to figure out the ins and outs of a new school, how they do things here, before the whole job starts really coming into full fruition, I start doing the best job that I can. And I'm not saying that I do a perfect job or the very best job, but for me to maximize my potential, I need to have been there more than a couple of weeks. I do the best I can in this case, I'm at a university, so the first semester, I give myself a break in terms of self-respect. Have I lived up to who I am? I know that in the first semester, I can't possibly anticipate all of the various things that are going to come up. I can't know all the rules before the semester. I can't know all of the students and their particular problems. In the following semesters, I've now developed the experience and a degree of expertise to where I can maximize my potential. And then you would start having problems with self-respect if you know that you could be doing a better job given what you have and given what you know that you're not doing that good a job. And there are reasons why people do that and still maintain their self-respect. I've seen people go through a divorce or have a death in the family during the course of their professional life. This is going to occur to all of us. Something terrible will happen that distracts us from our job. We maintain our self-respect because we know there are big problems in our life right now that are distracting us, and that's okay as long as we don't lean on those problems, which students like to do, lean on those problems for a few semesters in a row. So, people with high self-esteem think well of themselves, and they set appropriate goals and use feedback in a self-enhancing manner. Enhancing here we would mean in the sense of improvement, in a self-improving manner. They cope successfully with difficult situations, and they remember their daily experiences more favorably. They remember what happened today, even if today was several negative experiences. They have a more positive effect on that person. You learn from the negative experiences when you have high self-esteem. You don't think that everything bad that happens to you is a reflection on the fact that you are a bad person, which will happen if you have low self-esteem. So people with low self-esteem think poorly of themselves. They select unrealistic goals or shy away from goals and experience negative emotions in case of negative feedback. So let's think about that for a moment. They already think poorly of themselves and they select unrealistic goals. Okay, I don't think I'm a very good student, but I plan on getting perfect scores all the way through my master's program. I'm suddenly going to be a completely different person. This is a hallmark of someone with low self-esteem who has unrealistic expectations. You suddenly think, I'm starting graduate school now, I'm going to be a completely different person. I apologize if this sounds a little bit extreme, but I was reading some criminal psychology over the weekend, and criminals often set these goals, and when they're getting out of prison, of rehabilitation, I'm going to be completely different. And obviously you can't change who you are overnight. You do it in very small steps, and in the same way that you lose weight, or the same way that you start a fitness program. You're not going to run a marathon if you've never jogged before. You are going to do that through training and running further and further each time until eventually you're ready to go out and run 26 miles, which is about 40 kilometers. They have very negative responses to criticism. They experience all criticism as being negative, as being an attack on themselves. You are a bad person. Because you are late 10 minutes, you are a bad person. And they handle that very poorly because they already think poorly of themselves. People with low self-esteem are more vulnerable to depression when they encounter stress, and they tend to remember the past more negatively. So even if they had a positive experience, now we'll do the opposite of what we did with the high self-esteem people. They had positive experiences all through work today. They can still remember that negatively, such as, I got lucky today. Wow, I really thought that problem was going to be a lot bigger than it was. I must have tricked them. Somebody must have not done their job right. When everyone seemed happy today, they must not have realized that I didn't do a very good job. Okay, self-esteem's a tricky thing, and Don't worry if you're wondering whether you're the only person in the room who at various times has had low self-esteem. You are not. Everyone has a public persona, just as we talked about, and most people are pretending that they have high self-esteem when in fact they may not. So here's a couple of cartoons that deal with this. Someone with low self-esteem writes in his diary, "Dear diary, sorry to bother you again." Okay, obviously we say this to people. Students say this all the time. "Sorry to interrupt, sorry to bother you, sir," when they come to my office. That's my job, to deal with students. They're not bothering me. But obviously our own diary is our own thing. It's something that we're writing to ourselves and for ourselves. So clearly, you shouldn't apologize for bothering your diary. This here is obviously something that deals more with women, but self-esteem, it begins, self-esteem problems. This diaper makes my buttocks look large, look big. Most of you have had a boyfriend. Most of you have been boyfriends and had girlfriends, or most of you have been girlfriends who asked the question, how do these pants look on me, or do these pants make me look fat? And most men will tell you there is no correct answer to that question. Is there a dark side to high self-esteem? We have Darth Vader here. Obviously, there is a dark side to high self-esteem, even if you don't know anything about Star Wars. Clearly, you can end up with too much confidence that is not legitimate. Just because you have high self-esteem does not mean you're right. Just because you have high self-esteem does not mean you're good. Just because you have high self-esteem does not mean that everyone should do what you want us to do. Again, this is all things I was reading in this criminal book over the weekend. So we have here a cat with low self-esteem, and the cat, I don't know whether that's a he or a she, sees a very weak and frail cat in the mirror. And those of you who have low self-esteem, whatever it is that bothers you, people who are worried that they are too fat, when they look in the mirror, they see someone who's too fat. People who are worried that they're losing their hair, which is generally not women, although it can be, usually older. But gentlemen, if you're worried about losing your hair, when you look in the mirror, you will see someone who is losing his hair. And the follow-up here, our cat now looks at himself in the mirror, herself in the mirror. Well, it's a him now, I know that for sure. This is a male lion. So he sees a